Hello, and welcome back to United Masterclass, a tactical podcast about Manchester United. I'm your host, Haider Rubbani, and I'm joined as ever by Rob Blanchette. Rob, Manchester United held on for a very, very vital 2-1 victory over Palace. The red card really did change the game. Man United was so dominant, so good. And then there was maybe about 10 minutes where they were on the ropes. Ten Hag, fantastic substitutions, managed the game. And United have come away with a really, really important victory, and a victory which showed great character and which showed that, these players are really playing for each other. So that was really, really positive. How are you feeling about the game? You were obviously there yesterday. The last 10 minutes, I think the crowd really carried the players and the team through the game. I thought United were fantastic up until the red card, and then they showed some great, great character and sort of fortitude to win that game. And it's a really vital 3 points when you look at Newcastle dropping points, and dare I say Arsenal dropping points as well against Sean Dyche's Everton.
Yeah, it was a kind of, cliche game of two halves, wasn't it? But where was the half point in this game? Well, it was the 70-minute mark when Casemiro got sent off. So you kind of had all the good stuff before that, where I think United were very much in control of the match. And we'll talk obviously about that extensively today, about the tactics and how that works and why it worked so well. And then, of course, the final period of the game where you lose your midfield general with Casemiro off the football pitch and going into damage limitation. Because let's be honest, this is where Man United have lost games or dropped points so many times over so many years where they've not really been able to manage themselves in that moment. So it was interesting, wasn't it, to see Garnacho come on, and it was interesting to see Garnacho go off. It was the right decision. It was exactly what I was thinking at the time in the ground as it happened. Why? Because when Palace got their goal, you could see there were just the little jitters going around and you just needed to get over the line. I remember looking at the clock at 85 minutes and thinking, United need to just throw all the defenders on, get the defenders on, put a big line at the back and tell Palace to pump it long because that's actually easier to defend. Don't play through us. We're going to clog the channels. So they did that really well. And I was really pleased because I've seen so many of these games at Old Trafford over the years where they effectively lose their bottle. I hate using that term because, it's kind of, it expresses some kind of other opinion. And I don't think players want to lose football matches. But what you're seeing is that Ten Hag and the control he has, the puppet master on the sideline, he's got so much control of these players and what they do. And they stuck to their guns. And I think that last 5-10 minutes, don't forget 7 minutes of stoppage time as well, a long period to get through. They managed it really, really well. After the goal, I don't think De Gea had to make one more save. He had one punch, I think, when the ball went under him. And that was a fine moment. He just punched it away. People should have caught it, but he did punch it. But he didn't have to make a proper save after that. And I think United could have actually got a third goal, in retrospect, if the referee had a better day and let Sabitzer's ball through to Marcus on the halfway line go through, because that certainly wasn't a foul. But 3 points, Arsenal lose, Liverpool lose. You're looking through the kind of results and you're looking at Newcastle getting a draw. A really, really fine day for Manchester United.
Absolutely. And guys, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. So many of you are watching our shows every single week, so really appreciative. But lots of you aren't subscribed. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn those notifications on as well so that you never miss out on our content. Today's show, Rob, we are going to discuss an overview of the tactics. And then we're going to talk about Marcus Rashford and the goal, because it was a fantastic phase of play by Manchester United, and it was a great goal to score. Casemiro as well. We'll talk about his numbers from the game. We'll talk about the red card, that instant, but also the impact he's had on United this season. I know that that's been spoken about a lot, but we'll actually drill into some of the numbers and what United will miss over the next 3 games. Sabitzer's debut as well, and his numbers from his career. I'm really, really excited about this signing, and I'll tell you why later on. And then we'll talk about Lisandro Martinez as well, who was fantastic and has been fantastic for the last 2 or 3 games. As always, you can follow us on Man United MC and Rob on @Rob_B. Let's start, Rob, with the lineup. So this is from SofaScore, United 4-2-3-1. You can see that he's really settled now, isn't he, Ten Hag, on that back 4, or let's say back 5, De Gea in goal. Luke Shaw, Lisandro Martinez, Rafael Varane, and Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka, again, I thought was another decent performance. Dallow's back on the bench. He's going to have to fight his way back in the team. I think Dallow's going to get in, but it's really given Ten Hag a lovely headache to have, and he's got options now because Wan-Bissaka is seemingly building, I saw a few times, a nice relationship with Antony on that right-hand side. Casemiro and Fred in midfield. Obviously, Eriksen is out till late April or May, which is a real shame. United are going to have to manage that. But Fred he's been a warrior since he's come on. I've really enjoyed watching his cameos. He's added goals to his game, so he got his start well deserved, and I think he was fantastic after the red card. Then you had the front 3 or 4 of Rashford, Bruno, Anthony with Weghorst behind. So what were your thoughts on this lineup? Obviously, we'll touch on it really briefly. No Martial, injured again. That is a problem. I did say to someone the other day that, as well as Martial has played, I don't think he's had enough goals to his game, sort of when he's played since the World Cup. But you know what he does off the ball. You know what he does in terms of hold-up player, link-up player. He's very good at that. But I always say this on the show, your biggest superpower as a player is to keep fit. He cannot keep fit. And I had this discussion with someone. And I was saying, look, what do you do in the summer? I would probably sign Weghorst permanently. So you've got an option like him in the squad. I'd go and get a Kane or an Osimhen, and I would let Martial go, because you just can't rely on a player, no matter how good he can be on his day. You can't rely on someone who's consistently injured.
I agree with that in the part where you say we can't rely on someone who's consistently injured. I'm certainly not at this point of the year going to make the sweeping statement that I would let him go, because we don't know yet. Let's see if over a period of time that this manager has already performed miracles with a certain amount of players. Can he find a way to keep Martial fit? It's very easy to be binary and go, he can't keep fit, because that's what the current evidence suggests, isn't it? He can't keep fit. Before the game, he kind of sucked some of the energy out when we heard he was injured again and he wasn't going to play. But you got Weghorst, you can get on with it, and there's no real problem. So I think with Martial, it is a wait and see. But of course, if these injuries continue, they continue, and you have to go and deal with it one way or the other through the transfer market. Manchester United will be buying a number 9 in the summer, no doubt about it. Whether Martial scores 20 this year or does nothing, they'll be buying a striker this year. It will happen. But I think when you kind of look at the teams now, I think Erik ten Hag's teams are very, very predictable. We know what he wants to do. We know who's available, and we know that he's not a tinkerman. He doesn't like to tinker. He does the opposite of a Claudio Ranieri. He just wants to put his best team out and win games. That is the objective. There is nothing else on the agenda. Go out there, play your best team. So I think when you look at the kind of 4-2-3-1 shape here that we've got, and that's the kind of basic shape, the 4-1-5 is still very much prevalent. That's what they're doing. They're doing it with Casemiro sitting deep as the quarterback, Fred moving forward a little bit to be behind the 3 and the 1. And that 5 is the press. That's the Gegenpress. And that was what really worked yesterday so well, is this counter-press culture that Man United have got. Off the ball, they are now demons. They chase every lost cause. They push teams back all the time. Now, when you're playing a team like Palace, who now want to play out the back out of Patrick Vieira, this becomes the perfect tactic. Get your set there. Let Casemiro deal with any kind of scraps in front of the back 4. And then you've got this 5 pushing forward. Weghorst, really important, being the first wave, and everyone else following, setting traps. They're doing it beautifully. What was really good, Haider, about this game, and this is what I'm looking for in football matches from Manchester United, is the pass and move football was so much better. It's getting there. It's taking time. It's not perfect. But, we'll talk a little bit about Marcus's goal in a minute, and that epitomised what is now good about Manchester United on the ball. 16 passes, a lot of them one-touch passes before the ball gets to Marcus, 5 yards out for a tap-in. So, really happy Marcus is scoring tap-ins. It's my favourite thing in the world. When he scored the tap-in, I went mad in the ground because that's what I want to see. Marcus just passing it home from nowhere, just really close. Goalkeeper's got no chance. Fantastic goal. But more than that, now they've got this counter press. Now they can actually show that off the ball they care and they desire and they want to push all those things. You now got to be better technically. And we are. 16 passes before the goal absolutely shows that Man United are moving towards a more sustainable model for success. If you can do this, you can do it every week, even just intermittently in games, Haider, you're going to beat most opponents. That's just what it is. If you can't do it, which is what we were a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you're going to lose games. It's not rocket science. It's just what it is. So United doing that much better. And I think, when we dropped the points at Palace, with the goal in the last minute, that was disappointing. But you have to take that. It's a goal from 25 yards in the top corner, and that's just what it is. This time, you're a man down, 10 men for the last 15, 20 minutes of the game, and you managed the game pretty well, and you came out of it with a 2-1 win. And as you said it there just at the top, the crowd for the last 10 minutes were absolutely pulling the team over the line. The place was banging like it was Liverpool, like we were playing a massive match. And that's what you want. You see that the players are bought in, but the fans have bought in, and everyone is together.
So someone said something funny, Rob. We have a very fractious fan base, right? And there's so many different factions, and it's quite it's quite funny. We call Man United, but I don't think we necessarily are United as a fan base. But you've got the different factions. Almost everyone's sort of pulling together. You get one or two idiots. There's always one or two idiots, but everyone's sort of pulling together. And the people who liked Ollie, who liked Josie, who liked Ronaldo, this, and this, and this, they all seem to be behind Ten Hag. The team are behind Ten Hag. They will run through a brick wall for him. I just want to pick out one player because I think, he frustrates you. And I've seen, you've discussed this on your other show, The Promised Land, that you do that, Bruno can frustrate you. But Rob, off the ball yesterday, I think on the ball he was good, but off the ball yesterday, he was sensational. Absolutely sensational. And when Bruno's in that mood where he's playing for the team and he's focused, obviously he got his goal early on. I actually think that because Bruno's not scoring as much, sometimes he gets frustrated, right? But he got his goal early, and I felt like he, especially off the ball, he was that trigger for the counter press, and he was so good. And I know that he frustrates, and he can frustrate me as well, and he needs to be better on the ball in terms of his security sometimes. But he epitomizes everything that's good about this Ten Hag regime. He is Ten Hag's man on the pitch. He's that leader, and I just want to give him a shout out because I thought he was very, very good yesterday. He gets a lot of stick. But when he plays well and when he's focused and when he's committed, he's always committed. But when he's sensible as well in his press, he deserves to be called out for that.
Completely. And look, it gets a lot of stick for me for that technical aspect of dropping into the number 6 role, give the ball away. He does that way too much still. He needs to not do that. That is a big part of the job. But like you're saying there, can Bruno Fernandes press? Can he set trigger traps? Can he do all those things? Can he work on the left with Marcus? Can he go beyond Wout when Wout's there in the middle and add that extra layer? Yes, he can. He's really good at it. We know that Bruno Fernandes is an excellent attacking midfielder in the final third, and you need that. You need that creativity. What you need now in this moment at times, Haider, and I think we didn't really see it in the last 15 minutes from him specifically, but you did see that going to the back end of the game, say the last 5 of the game, was that Bruno off the ball was a demon, and that triggered everyone else. And you saw it in Marcus. Like Marcus was a little bit like jog at the end, and United are getting tired, and Palace have got the ball, and you're doing a lot of defensive work. But you saw that Bruno was the one willing the team over the line. So credit to Bruno. Like, this is the thing. It's neither one or the other, I think, with all footballers. I think that the Bruno Fernandes post-Ronaldo is a better Bruno Fernandes. We anticipated that beforehand. Why? Because we'd seen it without Ronnie, and now we know what it's like without him, and we're obviously not being at the football club. And I think that helps Bruno Fernandes massively, what's around him. It's a collective. And we're seeing that it is all about the team now. It's not about individuals, not about goal scoring records. It's not about anything. It's about winning football matches. So yeah, credit to Bruno, but just a really, really good team performance because you had 2 parts of the game to manage. The first part, you managed it really well pre 70 minutes before the Casemiro red. And I think after it, where we were really nervous, there was a 5-10 minute spell where the energy got literally ripped out the ground because we were all thinking, seen this disaster movie before. We've seen this. We know what happens here. United falter and you drop points where you should have won them. No, that movie didn't happen. The script was the Ten Hag script. And we know what Ten Hag wants. These players know what the manager wants. So this is what it is all is now, Haider, is that your leaders on the football pitch are helping you achieve points and win football matches. And we'll talk about some of them today.
Absolutely. There's a comment here from SD saying it makes a big difference when he's recognised as our talisman player, as a regular club captain. I mean, yeah, I would make Bruno captain as we're going to next season. But United have leaders on the pitch. You're looking at Casemiro, Rafa Varane. He's infectious, Rob. After every single game, he's always like this at the Stretford end. Rafa he's fantastic at the back. We know Lissandro is as well. Luke Shaw's stepped up. Marcus as well. There's so many leaders now on the pitch. Before we were saying, obviously you have a team captain, but you need 4 or 5 leaders on the pitch. United suddenly have emerged. And these players were here last season. So I think that's the most striking thing is that what Ten Hag's done with the current bunch of players and obviously sprinkled some gold dust with Lissandro Martinez, with Casemiro. I'm actually going to bring up this quote from Dave because I think it's a really interesting one. So Dave's saying here, Rob, what was the crowd like near you? Almost everyone moaned at Anthony whenever he had the ball near me. was really frustrating. Anthony keeps the ball really well and people don't seem to get it. I just want to give my sort of 2 cents on Anthony. I think one thing he does do is he does slow down when United are in transition. He sometimes does slow down. Obviously, he either brings back. I don't think he's got the pace to do what Marcus can do. Defensively, I think he's absolutely fantastic. He knows his his role. He knows the pressing triggers. He tracks back. And I think he's starting to grow into his role. I don't think he's been as bad as people are saying. I think he's getting a lot of vitriol and abuse from the media. I think it's ridiculous, but that's because of the price tag. Can he be better? Yes, he's very one-footed. But when United play with Anthony as a team, they're better. So I would actually like to see Jadon on that right-hand side at some stage. I know he played at number 10 the other night, and Bruno shifted that wide. But I do think Anthony's getting a bad rap, but he does have areas of his game he needs to improve. He's 22, and ultimately he's in his first season in a new league. And I think people are being a little bit overreactive with him.
Yeah, look, I actually think I'm going to kind of go against what you just said there, Haider. I agree with you in principle. Again, like, I think that people are definitely knee-jerk on Anthony. He's come to the club, big price tag. Yes, very one-footed, etc., etc. People talk about his negative sides until they're blue in the face. I think in transition is actually a strength. So we saw it yesterday, yeah, when United were in transition, he was the one player going on the outside. He was taking United from the right-back position all the way up to the right wing. So this is the thing about people saying, does he push the ball? I think he does push the ball. It's just that when he's on the right-hand side, he can't swing the ball in with his right foot. So that's an issue, isn't it? But that's actually a tactic. United don't want to do that. United don't want to go around the outside and swing the ball in. That is up to Aaron Wan-Bissaka to do that. So Wan-Bissaka, as we're seeing big improvements in his game, both technically and I think just in his general demeanours on a football pitch, he will give you some of that whip, so will Delo. I think when it comes to Anthony, player profiles is really important. And what's really important is that you don't have all the players who do exactly the same things. You don't want that. I don't want Marcus Rashford 2.0 on the right. I don't want Sancho to be Anthony 2.0. You've got to have variants. You've got to have different kinds of players. I personally, with this team, the way that it's playing at the moment, playing really well in transition, but also with ball retention now. First time we maybe have seen this for many years. United being pretty good on the ball. We're saying in the ground, like just saying a question there about what do you think? A lot of people, getting on Anthony's back, but not maybe as much as, say, in years gone by that someone would get on, say, Lukaku's back. But as I said, winning cures everything. So if you're winning games and it's not affecting that, people can be a little bit softer. But I think the general Twitterati and the consensus on Anthony has been pretty, wrong. Just blatantly wrong. Just easy to have a go at him, isn't he? Because of what he is. And every time he goes on the right side, Haider, and cuts in on his left, people go, oh, why is he cutting in on his left? The manager's telling him to do that. Manager wants him to cut in on the left. That's the tactic. It's an inverted style. So I'm happy with Anthony. I don't think he's lighting, anything up massively, but I think he's doing his job. And I think that he'll improve. And I think, I don't really want to see Sancho on that side, maybe as an alternate with him, but I don't think Sancho can push the ball like Anthony can. You just said about pace. I'm really kind of confused by this. A lot of people saying he hasn't got pace. He might not be the quickest, but he has got pace. He's not slow.
I think we're comparing him to Marcus.
Sancho is slow. Yeah, but
Sancho is slow.
There's no point comparing them. That's my point. There's literally no point. Different footballers do different things. It's a little bit like saying, is Martinez as tall as Varane? No. Is he? Does it matter? No, it doesn't. So I think that Anthony, in the end, eventually will be a player that does score more goals, especially cutting on the left, and gets more assists. But it's all about the fluidity of the attack, isn't it? I think if he had a more potent number 9 in front of him, or Martial was playing more games, I think Anthony would have more assists. I think that's the truth. Not saying taking the blame away from Anthony, but I also think that it's literally again, problem number 37 on Man United's list. It's not really huge. And I think people look at it simply because of the price tag. I think he gives us balance. I really do. I think he gives us balance. He can push the ball. I'm happy with his pace. There's no problem when, yesterday, there was a thing. He runs down the outside with the fullback. And what I really like is he doesn't get bullied by the fullback. So the fullback gets close and he's just bang, back into him. And people don't give him credit for that. He's come to the Premier League. You're going to have to fight fullbacks physically sometimes. And he's got a little bit of an attitude. He's that boy from a favela. He's like, don't you dare try that with me. We'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously, with the red card in a minute, and there is implications there. But I like his game. I like his game, and I see why he's the starter there and why maybe Sancho doesn't fit the tactic. I think Sancho will play more minutes now in the next weeks, obviously, but I think we might see him as a more of a central entity and being given that time and space in the middle where he can kind of pull strings as a number 10. I've always thought, not sure with Jadon as a 10, but we're certainly clear that Ten Hag wants to try him a little bit through the centre and see where we go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about. I don't want to go into now, Rob. I'm sure we'll talk about Jadon more as the weeks go on because he'll play more games. I've seen a clamour to see him as an. I think. What's interesting? There's two players. So you just quickly touch on it. You know, Sancho and then there's Lindelof. So a lot of clamour on Twitter to play Lindelof for defensive midfield. It's very interesting to hear that Ten Hag thinks he can play in that role. I think that's interesting. So, and that's actually something that I've thought, that has some credibility, but he played there a little bit, obviously, but he's not as well accustomed. But I think actually it could suit Lindelof. And the other one is obviously Sancho. A lot of people think that he should be playing maybe more centrally because of the lack of pace. I still prefer him out wide, if I'm honest. But that's something that obviously we can talk about. Should Ten Hag do this in the next few games with Casemiro out? Rob, let's talk about the statistics as well. You know, it was actually a pretty close game. But I think, look, United were cruising, like we said, until the red card. You can see here that, 14 shots to 10, 6 from open play. A lot of set pieces. I think now that United have a bit of height in there with Weghorst and Shaw putting in some decent balls and Bruno, United do look a little bit more of a threat, don't they, from set pieces? And I think that's good to see.
Yeah, completely. And, United have got a fair amount of decent physicality now. It's again one of these things, isn't it, about people talk about height and stuff, and if you got height then you're better at set pieces and all that. Well, that's the theory, but again, in the modern game, it's not really it's not the all be all and everything. You're not going to put the ball underneath someone unless you're Sean Dyche. You do that, you win a football match. It can happen. But I think when you look at kind of how Ten Hag wants to play, he wants to again have those options and be able to do some of the basics, which is obviously get the ball in the box and swing it in there. But it's more about kind of, I think, just outwardly expressing yourself with all the different styles. Looking at the numbers here, to see that we got 14 and they got 10. Most of their 10 obviously came very late in the game when they were trying to push for their goal. No kind of surprise there. It wasn't a huge XG effort from Man United over on the day, but it doesn't have to be. Like when you win football matches, it's about doing everything well. And that's the bit that I took away from the game, is that the stats don't really tell it in this one. Like the stats don't really give a fair assessment of what the game was really like. But Man United really dominated a tricky opponent. Like Palace are not as good as maybe they were, say, at the end of last season, and they didn't have Zaha. That's a huge thing for Man United on the day. But they controlled the game. And it was always the gripe, wasn't it? We do the masterclass a year ago, 2 years ago. We always got no control of any games. It's just like punch and counter punch. Like if we punch you in the face harder and you punch us in the face harder, whoever wins that wins the game. And oh my God, it's a nightmare. And it was always way too fragmented, wasn't it? Now we're actually seeing a Dutch coach exert a style of football that is good for the Premier League, but also good for Dutch tactics. We're seeing that balance. I think Ten Hag does it better than Louis van Gaal did. And that's the one thing. Louis was absolutely way much too weighted towards slow possession football from the back. Ten Hag doesn't do any of that. Ten Hag is absolutely more somewhere between Klopp and Guardiola. And I said it yesterday, I said it on my show the other day as well. A lot of people have got a lot to thank for Ralf Rangnick, because this is Ralf Rangnick football. This is what Ralf wanted to do last year, and he couldn't do it because the club stupidly didn't give him any time, made him an interim, and he can't exert his style. I think we're almost seeing a carbon copy of what was in Ralf Rangnick's head, but coming out through Ten Hag, because Ten Hag's got the authority. He's the guy building it, and obviously the players are bought into his style.
Ten Hag's a better manager as well, Rob. Like we can't downplay.
He's a better manager, but this the thing. It doesn't matter, does it? Like if he's a better manager or not. Like it really doesn't. Like he's the manager. He's the full-time manager. How is anyone supposed to exert a style on a bunch of footballers who are basically taking the mick out of you? Because that's what they were doing to Rangnick. So I said this at the time. If Rangnick had say a year to do it, or 2 years, or whatever, as the permanent manager, I think we would have seen a much closer style of football to what we're seeing now. It's almost identical to the Red Bull system. Like it really is. When you look at what Ten Hag's doing, it's always about energy and harrying and quick transition and fighting together and standing up to opponents and taking it all on the game. And they didn't do it last year, Haider, not because of the manager, because of the players. The players just didn't want it. They were like, oh, well, he's going in 3 months, so why am I to have to listen to him? And I'm getting paid 200 grand a week. So we'll just blame Cristiano because he didn't score this week. It's easy, isn't it? So it's on the players. And now the players, of course, are going, yeah, we love this. And we're climbing the table. And we're in a cup final. We love this manager. We'll fight for him. And we're seeing that fight in the team.
It's great to see, to be honest, Rob. Like I'm not complaining because it's really enjoyable going to games. You know, like when we talk about routine victories, United had, we look at the cup final, well, the cup semi. Obviously, now we're in the final for the Carabao. United routine 5-0, easy. Actually, you mentioned a little bit earlier, and I just want to touch on it quickly. You did talk about it. Ten Hag doesn't rotate much. What is your view on that? Because a lot of people are saying he needs to rest players and manage the squad. Obviously, the squad is quite thin. I actually kind of like it. He's putting his strongest team out, wins the game, brings them off early. I think that's a better way of doing it than rotating really, really heavily, and then not winning the game. I actually quite like the way that he's approaching this. I think sometimes, he can maybe rest a couple of key players, doesn't have to play full strength, but I do like the fact that he's out there to win the game, get the result, make sure that he's almost respecting every single opponent, whether it's Reading or whether it's Man City, and then United go forward.
Yeah, there's kind of 2 or 3 ways of looking at that for me. And it's like, as an individual, I think when you've got a strong squad, you've got numbers like Guardiola, you rotate. That's what you do. You've got a Foden on the bench, you play him because he's good enough. You've got Mahrez, you play him. So if you've got depth, great. Man United have got a big squad, but haven't really got true depth. Not really. It's all a little bit fragmented from the bench onwards. Saying that, I think the bench is better now than it was a year ago. So you are improving those things. But I said this to someone at the stadium yesterday when we were chatting about it, and I said to him, because that got put to me, it's like, oh, he needs to rotate more. That's why Eriksen got injured. No, when Eriksen got injured, because a big brute of a Geordie slid through the back of him. That's the truth, yeah? That's why. So, if he doesn't do that, Eriksen plays yesterday and Eriksen is fine. So those things happen in football matches. Rotation does not stop those moments from happening. They just don't. They're just one-offs, and they can cause players to be out for months. And that's where we stand on it. I don't think that he's killing the players. I think he's looking at it, and I think we see kind of in-game rotation. So you see Garnacho gets plenty of minutes. We've seen Fred's been in and out of the team. McTominay's played plenty of minutes in the interim. We've seen Malacia play. We've seen Luke Shaw come inside to give the centre-backs a little bit of time. So there is rotation going on. It's just not as obvious, I think, to the eye, to a lot of fans. And people are just going, you need to rotate. Well, the minute he rotates and loses football matches, it'll be you lot on him. So that's what he knows. So he knows the press will be on him. That's us. And he knows that fans will be on him. So he's just doing what he needs to do to win. And that's all he cares about. He's got all the sports science metrics at his fingertips, Haider. He knows when a player's not ready. So with Martial yesterday, he might have forced him out the door and said, get out there and play for me. But if he's out for 4 weeks, no point, is there? So you rest him, even though he's the guy that you would like to rotate into the team at the moment. That's how you manage these players, And the most important thing, Haider, win games. That's all that matters. Not even play well, win games. If you win games, then the season is extended. And that's when people will judge you. 13 wins at home on the trot now at Old Trafford for Manchester United in all competitions. That is the story. As soon as people say rotate, he says 13 wins at home. End of story. It's finished. People can debate about it as much as they like. But the truth is, we can't really, really rotate maybe until, I would say, next year, when you hopefully will have 3, 4, 5 more. You just said Weghorst. We're going to talk about Sabitzer as well. They're 2 players that might be able to help you rotate now, but also in the future if they stay on at the football club.
Absolutely. Guys, a lot of you in the chat today. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you see this on Twitter as well, I'll give it a retweet. We want as many people involved in the conversations going forward as possible. So, Rob, let's talk about Marcus. I mean, I'm almost running out of superlatives describing the season. I put my hands up. I was like, look, maybe United should sell him over the summer. I did say that a few times. He really didn't look like he was enjoying his football. He's severely out of form. He looked really unhappy, but what a turnaround this season. We know that he's now got 10 goals in the Premier League. I think he's got nearly 30 goal contributions in all competitions, which is just fantastic. I saw a statistic the other day that he's got more goal contributions than Saka and Martinelli, I believe, together. We see the Arsenal duo, especially Saka, getting a lot of praise, and he's been sensational this year. But I'd say Marcus Rashford has been the best wide player in the whole of the Premier League. The best in Europe since the World Cup, I would say as well. There's one particular phase of play which I absolutely loved. I think you might remember this in the first half. I think Bruno played it through to him. He gets the ball and he just accelerates around Guehi and then plays a shot. And so much power, so much confidence, so much intelligence as well. And he just looks almost unstoppable at the minute. But I think the most impressive part of the game yesterday was that goal, wasn't it? And you mentioned it a little bit earlier on, the way that United interchanged. What I'm really enjoying seeing from United at the minute is that they're very compact, obviously on the ball and without the ball, but they're also playing with width and they're moving the ball quickly. When you play a team that sets up with a bit more of a low block, we said this so many times under Ollie, that one of Ollie's strengths was when United were in transition. They were very, very good. But when you had to break down a low block or teams that were a little bit more compact, sitting deeper, United didn't seem to have enough imagination. I don't think they were coached well enough to be able to break down those low blocks. There was not enough movement. United weren't overloading the wide areas. They didn't have much width. They weren't moving the ball quickly. It does help the United have better technicians now in the team. But the way that United just systematically now just break teams down, move the ball quickly, pull them from post to pillar, it is really, really good. It's such a testament to the coaching team and to Ten Hag. And with better quality in the side, they will get better. But there's players in this team like Marcus Rashford, and Fred, even people like that who have just elevated their game under a new manager. And this is what we always say, don't you? That I think for years United they haven't bought well, but they've had Di Maria, they've had Falcao, they've had really good players come to the football club, Paul Pogba, and the conditions haven't been there, the system hasn't been there, the coaching hasn't been there, and it just shows that if you bring in quality management, quality coaching, quality tactics, a quality system, players, they have their role in the system, will get better. So I'm absolutely loving watching Marcus Rashford. That goal was fantastic. A lot of interchanges. Garnacho was great in that build-up. And it was one of them that you like to see those moves, don't you? You like to see United move the ball quickly. You like to see that you almost carve a team open. And I think we're seeing a lot of great goals at the minute.
Well, here's our soundbite for the week, and we'll chop it up. We'll put it on socials, and people can say what they want to say about it. Post World Cup, Marcus Rashford is the best player in the world. That's it. The numbers suggest it. The form suggests it. The eye test suggests it. So, again, Marcus, one of these guys, over the time, he kind of bears the brunt, doesn't he, of the weight of the team. The team plays badly. Marcus plays badly. People want to talk about Marcus feeding children, blah, 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 blah. It goes on forever. It's a rhetorical thing. Doesn't stop. Marcus is now in a good place. That means that my head is better than where I was. I'm pointing to my brain. That's my celebration now, and I do it all the time. And the thing is, I think that actually is a really good pointer for the whole team. The whole team is on the same page now mentally. You know, both that they want to work together, they want to win games, and they want to push the number for United. They want to get United victories. And I do think that we could question that over a really long period of time, no matter who the coaches were or whatever the style of football was back then. I think we look at Marcus, you look at the goal, and I said to you off camera about wanting to speak about the goal. The big takeaway in that moment for me, no doubt, is the 16 and 17 passes that starts at the back. It starts off with, first of all, with De Gea, but then a ball goes out of play and then the ball comes back in. And from that moment on, from the centre-backs, where the ball gets worked out from the back, ends up at Wan-Bissaka's feet, Wan-Bissaka puts it wide, is that United made those 17 passes. But they weren't just 17 passes. It wasn't a pass on the ball for 10 seconds, a pass. No, it was all lightning fast. One-touch football in general, and it went all the way to the right. It came all the way back across. Garnacho got the ball, came inside, inverted. This is, again, the style of what Ten Hag wants to do. Comes across, makes the extra man up. Then, of course, Marcus can ghost into the box, because when the ball goes right and comes back across to Luke Shaw then has a striker isolating in the middle of the pitch on his own. Then what have you got to do, Haider? Roll the ball in front of him and tap it in. So a very Manchester City type goal, a very Guardiola type goal, where your transition kills the opposition in that moment because your quality is so high. And that was a really big moment for me. Like, I loved the goal because it was a tap in, but also just because it was a team goal, the ultimate team goal, maybe our best goal of the season. And people are kind of not talking about it in those terms, Haider. But for me in the flesh and watching that, that's when Ten Hag's watching that and thinking, everything I've coached him for 6 months, every little detail in one split moment has come to pass. And we score the perfect goal. We walk the ball in the net. Such a rare goal. Arsenal used to score them, didn't they? Back in the day, it was a Wenger thing, walk the ball in the net. That was their thing. Not really a Man United thing. We're a bit more dynamic, aren't we? We kind of have those magic moments. But this was a really good passage of play, 30 seconds back to front from De Gea. De Gea passing the ball out from the back, you know, he's doing it better. Everyone seems to be passing the ball better. credit to Ten Hag. That was Ten Hag's DNA and his blueprint in a nutshell.
Marcus is really becoming a killer in front of goal, though, Rob. He's scoring a lot of those goals around the 6-yard box, and that's I quite like it. Is that obviously Weghorst came on, Garnacho came off. Sorry, Garnacho came on, and obviously Garnacho came off tactical reasons, and I think Ten Hag will bring him into the office and look. This is, and I'm sure Garnacho will understand why. As Vincent says in the comments, he was essential for the goal. But what I'm liking from Marcus as a number, he's playing like a number 9. He looks instinctive, and that was something I guess that was a little bit of a concern when you saw Marcus at number 9. You're thinking, can he get those scrappy, not scrappy goals, but can he get those tap-ins? Can he make that movement and score those goals and get on the end of balls in the low balls into the box? And he's added that to his game now, and he, like I said, he's a killer now in front of goal.
Totally,
all type of goals. He's scoring those goals obviously where he's using his power pace. He's cutting in from the left. But he's also scoring those striker goals, and it's interesting to see what happens. Now he's got options. Weghorst, I'm really liking what I'm seeing of Weghorst. Maybe he's not scoring the goals. I think United are still figuring out how to get more out of him in terms of chances. But off the ball, he's sensational, and he's made the rest of the team better. He's the ultimate. I would say he's the ultimate team player up top. I would like us to sign him. I think he'd be a great option in the squad. Offers you something different, but United can change that dynamic. Ten Hag can change that dynamic. You take Weghorst on. Garnacho is very direct. Like, he plays with useful exuberance. Takes on his man. He's been a great addition to the squad. And then you move Marcus centrally, and like I said, he's scoring goals every time he moves into that position. So I thought it was great management to take Weghorst off and to push Marcus centrally.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is a tactic that we're seeing Ten Hag do a lot, especially with Martial not in the team, is that how do you kind of rotate that front line to still be as potent? One of the things that Ten Hag spoke in one of the previous games in the cup matches recently was about how to kind of get some more like drive and energy back in the team from like 60 minutes onwards. So I think that's what we're getting good at. So like you're getting a bit where the manager recognizes that the team's tired. How do you affect the game? What can you do? What do you do? You put Marcus through the middle. He's got the energy, he's got the pace, and he's got the finishing now. So that's the difference, isn't it? Is that Marcus Rashford in the middle of the box. Soon, centre-backs are going to go, Marcus Rashford is stood in the middle. I need to go and stand next to him. That's going to open up the channel. What will that do? That will help Jadon Sancho. That will help Bruno Fernandes. That will help Garnacho. That will help Antony. So all of these things are to come, but they're working in real time. We're seeing why the manager is doing it. Yes, Marcus is hot at the moment. He's not going to carry it on. Like, he just won't. Like, even if he has the rest of the season where he scores goals, this level is really difficult to maintain because it's, as I said, best player in the world level. That's what he's doing. He's scoring goals every week, like for fun. I think that will cool off a little bit, and that's normal in sport, I think, in all sports, and that's fine, as long as the rest of the team benefit from him being on a football pitch. This is where we are now. I think, like you just said at the start there of this segment, and I want to kind of highlight it. You talked about Ten Hag and the systems and what he's trying to do. I always watch the warm-ups, like I always say, and the warm-ups now are just brilliant to watch. Now, I've watched warm-ups for 15 years, because I'm stupid. I'm in the ground 2 hours before kickoff. I watch the warm-up because I want to see what they're trying to do. I want to look at the tactics. It's my job. So that's what I do. And Steve McLaren takes the warm-up now. Steve McLaren's the guy who does all the warm-up work. And when they're practicing shooting, I'm sure a lot of United fans who are at the ground there can testify to this. They do this physical system now, and it's a quick system with 2 players at a time. So one will back in, and McLaren is the defender. And McLaren gets behind whoever it is with the ball and pushes them and smashes into the back of them. And the idea is that you keep your balance and lay the ball off. Now, that's one thing they're doing. And that happens in games. So Steve McLaren is teaching these boys this non-stop. This is their game now. And we're seeing these dynamic goals, Man United scoring through it and playing through physicality. So I think we need to give Steve McLaren his dues, because this is why United brought him to the club. He's a really, really good coach, both one-on-one and for teams. The other thing United do with this too is that when the player shoots, the other player is supposed to be the decoy, and then the ball gets rolled into the decoy and they have a shot. So both players always guarantee to get a shot off against the goalkeeper. And it's just lightning fast. It's so quick. And as you're watching it, you're a little bit like, woof, it's the energy here in this. Old days, Haider, all these other managers, Solskjaer, Mourinho, Van Gaal, Moyes, warm-ups were dull. And the players would pass it a little bit, and they would stand there and look around. No, those days have gone. This manager is demanding more, and his staff are demanding more. We're seeing it on the football pitch. And it's pleasing to see because you see it at the start of the game and already before the whistle's blown, Haider, you're going, these boys are going to come out. I can tell from the warm-up they want this. You definitely couldn't tell that in years gone by. Some of the warm-ups and some of the tactical work before the game was always very dull, very pedestrian, and just very much like I'm having a little bit of a Sunday jog.
Well, it sets the tone, doesn't it, Rob? Like, it completely sets the tone. And you see United started so quickly, got that early goal. I was just laughing because there was people even doubting it was a penalty. I mean, United have not had the rub of the green, barring maybe that we won't go into the Rashford goal against City, but obviously that we know why it's a goal. The rule's been changed now. But United have not had refereeing decisions. We've seen Eriksen's injury, and there's been other decisions. So it's great to see United start so well, get that early goal, and that's some great insight as well to hear that. Obviously you're at the ground and you're privileged enough to see that. Let's talk about the red card. There's a lot of comments here. Brian's saying here, just seen match of the day from last night, and they showed a different angle with Casemiro's red card. It was no red card. And Liza Rami says here, am I right if United appeal Casemiro's red? So he's going to miss 3 games. So that's the 2 Leeds games and the Leicester game. If the appeal goes against him, he misses an extra one. That would be the cup final. So they're not worth appealing. Why don't you just give a little bit of an insight into that point by Liza around me, so that we know, so we understand what's really going on. I mean, look, it wasn't a red card, and we'll go into that.
Yeah, the technical aspect of the ban and the appeal and how you do it is that, of course, if Manchester United want to appeal this 3-match ban, it's not that you get an extra game. And this is what I'm seeing on Twitter and elsewhere. People go, oh, you get an extra game ban, you get 4 matches. No, you get 4 matches if the FA deem it frivolous. So if you go to the appeal with no evidence, then that's a frivolous appeal. You're just kind of asking for it, and then you get 4 games. The issue with this is, of course, is that if you have an appeal, that takes time. That means he'd be available for the next game because it's gone to appeal. And then his 3-match ban starts 1 game later, and that runs into the cup final. So that's the issue here, the technical aspects of, what happens if you decide to appeal this. Now, talking about the incident itself, again, talk about my position in the ground. I'm on a halfway line, just to the right-hand side, towards the Stretford end in the Sir Alex stand. And as we look down, if you go on my Twitter account, you can see my name is here, at Rob B here. If you follow that, go and look on Twitter. I kind of posted a photo of the incident, kind of you can see where my angle is of it. And kind of above it, and we're looking down towards the right. It was pretty clear that it was all what we would call in the UK handbags, it was nothing, people pushing each other. It starts off, people are blaming Anthony for obviously jumping in, but Anthony gets thrown into the ditch, into the kind of natural moat, as they call it, around the ground, which stops fans running on the pitch. You can see at the moment the pitch on the right side here, Casemiro are both in that moat on that side. And if you get thrown into it, it's quite dangerous because it's a 6-foot drop. People don't realize all the way from top to bottom, it's quite a drop into that bottom gully. You can get really hurt. That's why Anthony jumped up, because he got thrown into it and kind of had a go at the Palace player. Now, it's a little bit of horses and courses about should United appeal or not. If you've got a strong enough appeal, strong enough evidence, then I think you should appeal, because there are reasons for that. There's a reason to appeal. If you haven't got evidence and it's 50-50, then I think you shouldn't appeal. I do understand that fans are worried that he could miss the cup final, but he's also going to miss, 3 league games that are all massively important to Manchester United in his chase for the top 4. So you've got to really kind of balance it out. I do think that United, in the weight of probability, won't appeal. But it doesn't mean that we can't discuss it or kind of discuss the merits of appealing. Now, looking at the moment here, because I think on the right is kind of what VAR saw. Yeah, that's the position the VAR saw. VAR had 2 or 3 angles, but they were all this front-facing angle. We've had issues with VAR this year that they don't have cameras running down the lines off the pitch. Question for that is why? Why don't you? Surely you want better angles. Maybe that will come in later on. But as you see it here, that's a TV camera looking at Casemiro. On the left, what we had is the moment there, same melee, same moment. This is what we saw below us, where AU grabs Fred around the throat aggressively, like that. That's what he did. And that's not what Casemiro did. Casemiro's hands are up, and you can see it here clearly. But from all the camera footage from around them, and when you review it, you actually see he never kind of throttles him. He never does. His hands are there. And you see that in one moment he does that, and then he pulls one hand away to say, I'm not doing anything, I'm holding you back. And there's no doubt that in that moment, Hughes was the aggressor. Hughes was getting in his face, and he was just trying to hold him back. I get why VAR thought it was a red card, but this is not what VAR is for. VAR is there for clear and obvious errors. This is not a clear and obvious error. It's an interpretation of a moment. VAR really, I know it tells the referee to go look at it, but that angle, yeah, it does look like he's choking him. But from every other angle, he clearly doesn't. So this is why I'm saying that Man United take a lot of the TikTok footage, as we call it now, around the ground. People have uploaded it straight away from their phones. It's really clear, like really, really clear that he's got his hands here and it's not like this. And it's not what IU is doing there. I also understand that some fans are going, it doesn't matter what IU did. You're right. In terms of the appeal, it doesn't matter. But this is a big rick that if VAR can't see that throat grab, but can see what Casemiro does and then punishes Casemiro, that's a slight on the officials. I don't want to talk about the referee too much, but the referee was absolute codswallop on the day. He got everything wrong. So many little decisions. There were times where he slowed the game down. There were times where he gave fouls that weren't fouls. There were times when he let things go and you were like, what's he doing? That is a foul. Just stop the game. And I think referees can get into a rut. You've got to remember he had 2 VAR decisions that he had to go and look at. Obviously, there was the penalty, which he looked at, and there was this. So maybe that affects his confidence. I don't want to make excuses for referees because I don't care about referees. I care about Man United. In this moment, you've got done. You can't really help it. You now have to decide whether you're brave enough to appeal it. I think if you do appeal it with the footage that I've also retweeted on Twitter, so you'll see all the different camera angles, it's pretty clear that it's not a throat grab. And therefore, as it's not a throat grab, Haider, it is not violent conduct. You get sent off for the technicality of violent conduct. It is no longer violent conduct. It's something else, maybe ungentlemanly conduct. That's a yellow card, not a red card. Therefore, it gets downgraded. So I think United have a good chance if they decide to do it. But of course, they want to keep him for the cup final. And also, Casemiro getting 3 games as a rest is also not the worst thing in the world, especially as I think Sabitzer came on for 10, 15 minutes and did really well in his position.
Yeah, look, I think United should just leave it. Obviously, let's not downplay the 2 games against Leeds and Leicester. Leicester with a good victory, and Leeds, well, look, it's a derby, so they'll be up for it. But I just think that the cup final for me is more important than all of this. You want him playing for that. I don't want him to miss that because it puts United in a difficult position. Newcastle are a really good side, so I think United just have to bite the bullet on this one and just kind of get on with it. To be honest, like that's
agree with that.
What I think.
Yeah, look, I think, but you've got to remember this, right? In those 3 games, say you lose those 3 games because you're not as strong in midfield. That's suddenly really important for your future. 9 points. Yeah, you cannot. I think this is why Ten Hag's not rotating, because every game is a cup final. Now, that's a cliche again, but it really is. Leeds is going to be 2 games of hell and high water, battling through barbed wire, because Leeds hate us and we hate Leeds. That's a derby match. So losing Casemiro in that environment is a difficult one. Over those 3 games, you wouldn't expect that United would drop points simply because Casemiro is out. But we've already seen how bad this team is when you do take 1 or 2 out, or what you need to do. That suddenly the consistency drops, doesn't it? So I think United have to balance that and have to say to themselves, if they've got real footage, you're going to take it to the FA and say, this is our footage. What do you think before we appeal? And maybe have that conversation unofficially. And the FA might go.
Is that something you can do, Rob? Yeah. Can you have a conversation off the record? Just be like, I mean, look, is that something
you can always have a conversation off the record. It doesn't mean that anyone will listen to you. It doesn't mean that it will work. But you've got to have the lay of the land, don't you? And I think that if this was an adjudication of a moment of violent conduct, I think all the other camera angles completely show it's not violent conduct. So you either have to be brave and do it, and then risk, obviously, missing Casemiro for the cup final. But let's be honest, will we be better against Newcastle in those games in midfield with Sabitzer maybe a little bit more up to speed? Yeah, and ready to start matches, because you might not be ready to start the Leeds game, but you're going to have to, probably. You're going to have to play him, or you might have to drag McTominay off the treatment table and push him back in the team, and nobody wants that. So you have to decide that. I know that Ten Hag kind of said yesterday, as soon as you put your hands up, then you're in trouble, and there's always that opportunity to get sent off. But I also do think that the evidence is compelling. It really is. Otherwise, I'd be saying this as well. I'd be like, no, leave it. It's a 50-50 decision. The club have to decide how brave they are.
Absolutely.
You can't hemorrhage 9 points in 3 games. You can't. If you do that, you're coming 5th. So this is the problem. So United have to think about it in those terms, and not with it's just 3 games. Well, yeah, if you lose those 3 games, the cup final will be jaded. You'll get to the cup final and you'll be like, we're now, Chelsea have caught up with us. because they're 9 points behind us. Now they're level, and now we feel awful about everything. Every game matters. Every game is a cup final. I'm looking at it like that, Haider. I'm looking at it, every game is important. The cup final is just another important football match.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. But Rob, let's talk about actually what United will miss then when Casemiro is not playing. So on the screen, guys, we've got the graphic on the left, and in the middle is Casemiro's performance from the game against Palace, and on the right-hand side is actually his overall metrics for the whole season. So, Rob, I mean, look, he's got 6.3 from SofaScore. Obviously, that the red card has contributed to that. You can see, that he's always involved. 52 touches. He got 80% pass accuracy as well. 4 out of 8 ground duels won, and 3 out of 3 aerial duels won. Possession lost 13 times. But listen, he is so pivotal defensively. The way he reads the game, his intelligence, he allows the rest of the team to push forward as well. But no, not only that, Rob. Like he's very accomplished on the ball. The amount of times he can turn defense into attack with one ball. Great player, mentality, everything about him, is top notch. He's an absolute world class talent. On the right hand side, you can see that with his metrics. I mean, look, he's the best in Europe for his defensive metrics. The tackles, 95th percentile, interceptions, 87th, blocks, 99th, clearances, 97th, aerial duels won as well, 97th percentile. But then also you're looking at the passes completed as well, and look how progressive he is. He's in the 72nd percentile. That's around 6 progressive passes per 90 minutes. That's phenomenal from the defensive midfield position. So there was a great question actually further up by SD, and it's over here. I've got it now. Are you guys worried about our progressive passing ability from the pivot for the next 3 league games with no Eriksen and Casemiro? I think that's a great question to ask, because Christian Eriksen, obviously, while he might not have and we'll talk about Sabitzer in the next segment of the show, might not have the defensive, let's say, engine, I'm going to put it that way, as Sabitzer has. But passing-wise, we know that Eriksen is very progressive. He's linking and knitting everything together. And as we can see here from the metrics from this season, what Casemiro is giving you is more than just defensive assurity. He's giving you progression from that deep position. He's also scoring goals. You've seen the way that he gets forward. He's an all-action, all-round complete midfielder right now. I don't think he's boxed in as just a number 6. So that's a good question. Are United going to miss their progression? Or when Sabitzer and Fred come in, who's going to play the number 6? Is Sabitzer going to drop into the number 6 role? Or is Fred going to do that? It'd be interesting to see what Ten Hag does. I think it might be Sabitzer dropping deep and Fred playing further forward, because I think we've seen before with Fred, like, I think you don't get the best out of him. I don't think his ball security is that great when he plays in the deepest position and when he's asked to be the one to kind of play forward and play through the lines.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, and this is what you won't get on other tactical shows. This is why we do this show, because we kind of dig deep on things. Let's just look at Casemiro's heat map there before we address that question about whether you'll be worse without Casemiro and Eriksen. Well, we will be. Of course we will be. They're 2 of the best at what they do, playing as the 6 and the 8. Looking at Casemiro's heat map there on the left-hand side, Haider, I'll ask you a question so we kind of do it hypothetically for the audience. Where is Casemiro's heat in this map? Where's the main heat?
Well, it depends. Well, it's actually further forward if you're looking here. No?
Correct.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
So this is why I don't use the term, and never will use it, not in the modern game anyway, defensive midfielder, because does it exist? There's no such thing as a defensive midfielder. There's a defensive midfielder on FIFA because it's a role on FIFA and people have got used to it. This is what the modern number 6 does, right? So people might go, but that's just, you're just being pernickety here. No, look at the heat map. The heat map shows that he's effectively doing all the defensive work, which is to look after the ball in front of the back 4. He's the guy that sticks when the 5 at the front twist and go forward. But look at his heat. Look where he's actually playing football. He's playing the role of a number 8. Yeah, 6'8". That's the modern game. So what can you do without Casemiro? Can you replicate that heat map for Manchester United with other players? The answer to that is yes. So you're trying to say, now, will Sabitzer, will Fred play? Yes, they will. Who will sit? I think they'll just interchange. So you'll just see that one of those 2 will sit. It won't be a double pivot. And actually, it's not really a single pivot either. Like, especially, again, when you're looking at where he's playing, you're seeing that Casemiro and what he's good at, and he did do this at Real Madrid, this is not like a brand new thing for Man United, is that he does get towards the edge of the box a lot more than most number 6. He is not a defensive midfielder. He's good defensively, but he's not a defensive midfielder. He's not, as I said before, an Ndidi type player. That's not what he is. So you're not going to be able to replicate what Casemiro can do pound for pound. But what you can do, both with with the two players that you've got available now in midfield, and this is the issue, isn't it, about how do you do it, is that these two guys can both play the 8 adequately, play it well. I think with Sabitzer, he's kind of more adept at being able to play both roles. You might see that one sits at the back of the press and the other one is the number 8 who presses at the behind the 4. That is how it's going to be. Fred already, and you saw it from yesterday, is doing the Eriksen role. So he can't do it as well as Eriksen. He absolutely cannot pass the ball like Eriksen. We know this. But his job is to be busy behind the 4 who are pushing and setting the trap. And he's the guy who's got to get to that midfielder to stop that out ball. And then you have someone behind. I wouldn't be surprised if actually Fred is the one who sits and kind of offers protection a little bit more, even though it's not his game. And Sabitzer, who's a more mobile midfielder in terms of his aggression, controlled passing, he's much more that type of footballer, is the guy that does the kind of the busy bee work. Yeah, he's the one who's kind of buzzing around looking for the extra out ball to go and work it. That's how you do the press properly. So United can survive these 3 games with it. But this is why I'm talking also about Casemiro, you contesting the red card. Because losing him is a huge blow. Like losing him and Eriksen in one fell sweep for 3 games. Haider, that might actually collapse your press. It really might. So people, I think it won't, and you hope it won't. But Casemiro is a world-class number 6. And you haven't got a world-class number 6 to come back into the team. No one has. No one in world football has a world-class number 6 and then another world-class number 6 to replace them. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. So a bit of a quandary for Ten Hag, but I think ultimately the solutions are fairly simple. It's just maybe not the perfect solution. And I think it's a bit, so you saw, didn't you, in those 10 minutes when he came on the football pitch, he's going to give you a little bit of energy. And the other thing people don't know about him as much, I find, is that he's a leader. He was captain at Leipzig. He's captain Champions League teams. So he knows what the stakes are. He's absolutely that kind of guy, a little bit like Casemiro. Not as decorated as Casemiro, but he's got plenty of experience. 28 years old, Austrian international. He's come to Man United to win. He's not coming to sit on the bench and, just watch everything and have a lovely little holiday before he goes back to Bayern Munich. So I think when you look at that in that heat map, Sabitzer is probably more suited to doing that kind of role. And then you can interchange with Fred. I kind of think that's the solution today. But that's really what you've got. It's not a full deck of cards, Haider, that you're working with.
Rob, let's move on to Marcel Sabitzer. Before we look at these metrics, and this is from the season, you can see on the right-hand side, we've got his FBref metrics. I was so excited, Rob, when we signed him. I know people are going to laugh at that. I looked at Eriksen's injury and I thought, oh my God, like May, that's a whole season gone. I mean, awful tackle. That's Eriksen out now. And United cannot go forward, especially when they're trying to compete on all 4 fronts at the minute. We've got a couple of big Europa League games coming up against Barcelona. And Barcelona are top, by the way. I think I didn't realize actually how well Barcelona have done this season under Xavi. They're top of the La Liga, 6 points. Obviously they won the Spanish Cup against Real Madrid as well. They destroyed them 3-0. So it's going to be a good side. And I was just thinking, we're going in. McTominay, not the biggest fan, but obviously he's a body there, but he's injured at the minute. If we're going in with Fred and Casemiro is now out, what are we looking at now? We're looking at Iqbal, we're looking at Mainu. Like, you know what I mean? The options are so thin in that midfield. Are we dropping Bruno back? Van der Beek is out for the season. I think people are forgetting that.
Yeah.
And when this option came available, I was all over this because I know United obviously scrambled around a little bit. They were offered Aouar, they were offered Saul, Carrasco, these sort of players. This is what was said in the media, but Marcel Sabitzer fits exactly what Ten Hag wants to do. He's played under Julian Nagelsmann at both Leipzig and Bayern Munich. Counter-pressing machine. He's got the ability to switch the play. He's comfortable in possession. He's got a better engine than Eriksen. And you can see here when you're looking at the statistics, like he's a progressive passer. So, when SD was asking, are we going to miss progression with like Casemiro and Eriksen? Yes, because obviously, they're not playing and Fred isn't as progressive. But Sabitzer can do that role. You're also looking at tackles as well. So his ability to break down play and then to play the ball forward is really, really underrated. So I'm really excited about this signing. And I think this is almost a perfect opportunity for him to, like you said, get up to speed and to really assert himself. I don't think he's going to be phased. This is a guy, like you said, that played for Leipzig, has played Champions League games. When United lost 3-2, he was very, very pivotal in that game when we got knocked out of the Champions League under Oli. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to see. I really liked his cameo yesterday. And what I liked is that although he only made 3 passes, to be honest, Rob, he came in a really difficult circumstances and United immediately looked much more assured. He understood his position. He understood the spacing. Great tackle, by the way, and he was robbed of an assist. That I don't understand how that was a foul on the Palace player when he dispossessed and played it for a ridiculous decision. But I'm really excited. My only question is I'm thinking, where is he going to play? But like we've described in the last segment of the show, doesn't matter where it's 6 or 8, he's interchangeable. But this is such smart business. And when you're looking at the likes of Chelsea getting a player that I really like, Enzo Fernandez, and I watched him against Fulham. Chelsea are mad as a box of frogs right now. But, you looked at a player like Enzo Fernandez, real quality, sitting there deep in number 6. So I was like, you could look great to see him next to Casemiro United. But the smart signing someone like Sabitzer on loan, and then, if he has a good spell to sign him permanently and to beef up that squad and have real quality there and options. Eriksen, Sabitzer, Casemiro. Now suddenly looking at Fred. You're suddenly looking at a good midfield.
Yeah, look, as soon as you lost Eriksen for that extended period, I did the promised land literally like an hour before the Eriksen news broke. We were told that the club expected it to be around 4 to 6 weeks. So we kind of went on that premise. As soon as that was ripped to shreds and it became 4 months, then you had to go and get a midfielder. And what I liked about this signing is that we know loads about Sabitzer. He's a player that's been round the block. Everyone knows what he's good at, what he's not good at. Integral Bundesliga operator. We know kind of what his kind of strengths and his weaknesses. But you needed someone that kind of delivers these kind of percentiles. And this is why we talk about this a lot on this show with footballers, and we use this from FBref. So when you look at it, the one I'm always looking at, Haider, especially when talking about number 8s or players that play the 6-8 function, is what do they give you like outwardly? So I always look at the MPXG plus XAG, and people are like, well, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, what is that? Non-penalty goals and assists. So what does a player do in his game that's not with the ball on the penalty spot, but what does he do in open play? How does he work it? And we nearly saw that moment, as we said, at the end of the game. So he wins the ball fairly, and the referee absolutely robs him of his assist because he gets the ball, he gives it to Marcus. Marcus has got clear space, clear path all the way to the goalkeeper, and it would have probably been a goal or a very good chance of a goal. And we would all be sat here today going, this player's got to play. Look, he showed us in 10 minutes you can rob the ball and get you going. That's the counter press. That is gegenpressing to the absolute T of the description of the word. So I look at this signing and I'm already thinking, if he just does his normal stuff, we're signing him. Like, we're getting to the summer, you want this player. Because if he can repeat these metrics, and he's done well at Bayern, it's just that at Bayern, they've got different options. They've got players who are bona fide starters in his role.
Kimmich, Goretzka, like Gravenberch has not even had a look in as well. That's another player that did really well under Ten Hag, right? And he's another player that I would have taken on loan, to be honest, as well. Top player. Completely.
So I think the good thing is that when it went to the player and they said, would you like to go to Man United for 6 months? He didn't even say no. They were like, he just had to take the chance. And I think you've already seen, like, just in that 10 minutes. I don't know if it came across on the TV, and maybe the guys in the comments can assist us with this a little bit. But as soon as he came on the pitch, there was this kind of groundswell from the fans because he came on and he kind of went into the middle of the pitch and went, ah! Like, they came on like that, and we all went, yeah, like, and he did, and it was weird. Like, it was a weird moment. Like, it was so weird, but he did it. And within that moment, the ground woke up, and it was like, people were like, I already like this guy. Like, he's done nothing, and I already like him. So I think that he's technically better than Fred. I think he's technically better than McTominay. I think he's automatically ahead of those two on a normal day-to-day basis. Fred is the guy who's been in there and has played well. So I think the manager, again, doesn't like to tinker too much. But now Casemiro is out for these 3 matches, or we presume that's where it will go. That this guy has to just start. And one of the big things about him is that he's kind of a ready-made option. He really is. He's a 6'8" who can play the 6'8", and he's also lethal around the box. Like, again, you look down at the metrics and you look at his kind of shots. His shots total, he's in the 99th percentile of all players in the world, all players and midfielders for this metric. He's a great player around there. He's a risk. So players are going to look at him and go, we can't give him the ball 20 yards from goal. You give the ball to Casemiro 20 yards from goal, you're probably all right with it because you know it's probably going to go wide. With Sabitzer, he hits the target more often than not. So he gives you an extra function there. Someone like Bruno and Anthony can roll the ball to him and he can get accurate shots off, which is when McTominay's there, you're like, don't shoot Scotty, don't shoot Fred, but with this guy, you're going to be thinking, have a pop. You're a good footballer at this. Is what you're good at. So I think he starts. I don't think you haven't got many choices. Manu, I would like to see get some more minutes at some point. But again, these games that mean so much now, Haider, it's difficult to squeeze the moments in for the youngsters. But I think Manu, again, is an all-action 6'8", someone who can do that, technically very proficient. He might have to be played if you lose now, Fred, or you say the unthinkable happens. Sabitzer gets an injury in the next match. Casemiro's out for a longer period. Then you really will be looking at Kobe Manu.
It's a great young talent he is. He plays with a lot of maturity, doesn't he? And what's great to see, and Ten Hag has said this before, that with the youngsters, you have to earn your spot. He's not just going to give a youngster a game. Garnacho has done that. Pellistри's really forced his way in. I like what I see from him. He looks like a very technically secure player. So I really like what I've seen from him. It's a good comment here from Heli saying, never seen anyone jump on the plane so quickly, talking about Sabitzer. So like, I really look, what I like, I'll tell you what I like, Rob, is that United, it's a smart player to bring in. So you're looking at the personality. He's a leader, captain Austria, captain Leipzig. And then you're looking at also the sort of managers he's played under. So Austria plays under Ranić. I know people don't like Ranić. I'm just saying that. And then at Leipzig and Bayern, it's under Nagelsmann. So you're looking at what are their tactical fundamentals? How do they want to play? And then Ten Hag plays in a similar way, especially off the ball. So it's an easy transition. It's not like you're bringing a player that doesn't play for a pressing side and saying, "Okay, come into the team." So that's what I like. It's a smart move. Weghorst, again, we know he's a pressing monster. Do we want to go and have Kane or Osman? Yes, we do, but that's not feasible. So United have made smart moves in the window. So look, I'm really, really happy with what I've seen so far in a very, very small amount of time. And look, he's going to get his opportunity, and I'm really excited to see, because look, he can shoot, like you said. He can really shoot. He scored some absolutely cracking goals. And we haven't seen a lot of long distance shots, have we, from United players in let's say the last 10 years, and they've been particularly good. So I'm excited to see him play. And I think he'll relish a debut or first start against Leeds in the derby. I mean, I think he'll relish that. He won't be faced. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, he'll relish it, Haider. But I think the only caveat with all of that is that he's been at the club 2 minutes. So he can press. We know that. And I think stylistically, he fits Ten Hag and Ten Hag fits him. So you hope that it's okay. But I always say this about the Premier League. Even though he is suited to our game and suited to the way we want to kind of be outwardly, the Premier League can shock players, really can, even the most experienced players. You come in and people want to kick you into high heaven, yeah? And generally you get allowed to. You're allowed to play more physically. I kind of think that will fit his game. I think he will want to be physical, and I think he'll want to get stuck in. So that's a good thing. But there's definitely a roll of the dice here. Like you're enforced to roll that dice because of Casemiro, and you'd want to build Sabitzer's minutes up, but you're probably going to have to give him 60 minutes in the next 3 games, which is not what you wanted to do. You probably wanted to give him 30 minutes, and building him up to pace. But he is a good player. I've got no doubts about his technical qualities or what he can do for Man United. It's just that you've got to hope that him and Fred have that understanding from the off, because it happens with footballers that sometimes they don't. On a different page and do different things. Fred's got used to Casemiro looking after that space and leaves it, and then Sabitzer doesn't look after that space because it's not what he wants to do. It can be difficult. You play Leeds, and this is why I was saying about the 3-match ban. You would ideally want Casemiro for these games because it's going to be a game of fire. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a war, and I think Sabitzer will be up for a war. I think Fred will be up for a war, but you still need to be technical. Still need to be good on the deck. So
especially as Leeds are struggling as well. So Rob, I have no doubt they're gonna really be up for it.
They're struggling, but Leeds are young, right? So Leeds are young, and young teams can just pull it out the bag and do things to you and kind of hurt you. And I think they've got 2 or 3 really good youngsters coming through at Leeds who this year are showing great promise. I'm sure they'll be up for it in this football match. So we'll see. It's very rare to have 2 games so back to back, isn't it? With the one opponent, but it's just the way it is at the moment. So you might find that one game, like Leeds, might have a little bit more of it because United are working it out with a new set of players doing this, like with Sabitzer in there. And then the second game might be better. But who knows? Let's see how it goes. I think it is difficult to call, but it goes against Ten Hag's conservative nature of no changes. Yeah, so he's have to change it now. He's got no choice. Let's see if he can get the team coached up to that standard without a player like Casemiro. It's going to be very difficult, especially without him and without Eriksen.
Absolutely. Rob, let's close on a real positive. I want to talk about this man here, Lisandro Martinez, the butcher of Manchester. What a performance. What a couple of performances, especially the last 3 or so games. What I really liked from Ten Hag is that came back from the World Cup winner, had a good World Cup. Didn't start all the games, but incredible achievement. You know, he's in a very exclusive and elite club of winning a World Cup. And came back and was benched for like 2 or 3 games. Luke Shaw came in, did a great job at centre back. And what I like from Ten Hag is that it doesn't matter who you are. If you're not 100% up to speed, you got to earn your place back in the team. Whether it's Martinez, whether it's Varane, whether it's Casemiro, we saw that when he first came in. I mean, the last 2 or 3 performances from Martinez have almost been flawless. And the biggest thing here, I mean, look, on the left-hand side in the graphic, we just look at his numbers: 92% pass accuracy, 77 touches, 66 passes, 7 times won the possession back, 5 clearances, most in the whole of the of the game, 5 duels won, 4 final third entries, 3 aerial duels won as well. Not bad for a guy that's 5'9". 2 tackles, 2 offside traps, 2 fouls, and wasn't dribbled past once. I know a lot of people every single time he plays well call out Carragher, and they call out sort of his comments early on. But doesn't matter what size Lisandro Martinez is, he is playing right now as one of the top centre backs, I think, in the Premier League. You could maybe argue in Europe, but what he gives United, not just from we talk about ball playing centre backs, and that's so important in the modern game. You know, he's very progressive, and you can see that with the statistics on the right hand side. You know, he's 84th percentile, passes attempted 91st, so he's very proficient on the ball. He's a great technician, but he is so aggressive. He's tenacious. He sets the tone at the back. And the other thing I want to add about him is that it's controlled aggression, right? He's not going in and trying to break someone's leg and just going absolutely crazy. And I just think that he has been such a pivotal signing for Ten Hag. And he's really, really sort of, his qualities are really, really well balanced with Varane. Varane is phenomenal at sort of defending, his zone, I think. That's what he's really good at. He's reading in the game. I don't think he's as good on the ball as Martinez, but they complement each other so well. You know, Varane's not as aggressive, but Martinez is more of the enforcer. I just think it's a lovely partnership. It's a foundation that United are building off, and what a signing for 47 million. He's looking like a great signing, and look, long may it continue, because I think that, if United keep on going in the trajectory, I think he'll be such a key player for bringing Man United back to challenging and winning titles.
100%, completely. And I think the thing is, we look Martinez, we'll kind of look at some of his stats in a sec. The most important thing is, again, it's that leadership style, leadership abilities, but also, as you just mentioned there, about the suitability to play next to Varane. So we know what Varane does. We want Varane to obviously stay fit. That was an issue over the time since he's been at the club. Don't want to tempt fate. Looks a little bit better in terms of consistency. He might be a player that you need to rotate just to look after him a little bit more. But the whole point about Martinez, and you kind of look at the figures here, tackles, blocks, and clearances. So that's kind of what defenders have always been judged on at centre-back, isn't it? We do know that it's now about ball progression and how you get the ball out from the back. He does all of it very well. And this is why we said at the start, when he was signed, that all this nonsense about whether he's 2 inches too small is nonsense. Is a load of absolute trash. It really is. It's about, how do you fit the team? How do you work with that centre back? Yeah, he's not as tall as Harry Maguire, but he's better than Harry Maguire. That's just what it is. So I think the whole thing is that twofold ways of looking at it. You kind of mentioned at the top of the show about whether he could play defensive midfield. I think you could also ask that question of Maguire. I think Maguire is a ball player and can play in front of a back four. I'm sure he could play 10 yards further forward. He doesn't really have the pace. He's probably as quick as Casemiro, being completely honest. But he could play the number 6. He can pass the ball out from there. But when you look at Lisandro Martinez, what I really like about him is that if there is the channel in front of him, he just walks through it. Just takes the ball and walks through it and gets into a midfield position. And then you can start with Luke Shaw much higher up. You can start with Marcus maybe dipping in to create a little bit of space. It's all about your system. So he's perfect for the system. Obviously, Ten Hag knew that because he's worked with him before at Ajax. And perfect for the Premier League, because what's most important about the Premier League now is that the centre-backs progress the ball. Everyone has to do it. You do it at every football club now, even the ones that don't do it very well, but everyone tries to do it. But on the flip side of it, do you still have the aggression? Because quite often we talk about, ball playing centre-backs as a cultured thing, isn't it? Like they're smooth, they're like Rolls Royces and blah, blah, blah. No, you can also be nasty at times, but be all good on the ball. And that's what I think Lisandro Martinez is. He's called the Butcher for a reason. He doesn't take any prisoners, and his stats are phenomenal. Like, again, just want to point out a couple of bits on here just to show people, not great there in the assist metrics and the shots metrics, but you don't want him to be. It doesn't matter. But in the XAG, he's right up there in the elite section, helping shot creating actions, 85th percentile, absolutely elite.
That's huge. That's basically
he's helping the team.
The pre-assist, basically, isn't it?
The pre-assist. Yeah. He's helping the team getting good positions whilst doing all the defensive work. You said about Varane and aggression. I think Varane also does it. I think they do all those things actually as a duo really well. I think Varane is more aggressive than people think. It's just that Varane is the smoother one. Varane is the Rolls Royce, the one that glides over the ground. But you see with Varane, he's no nonsense. He'll kick a player up into Rose Ed if he has to. He understands that. Martinez, I think, is kind of more the kind of little, jackhammer footballer. People kind of get excited when he flies into someone. But as you said, he doesn't do it all the time, so it's not really a problem. But a great centre-back pairing. And we've always said this, that with Lindelof and Maguire, whether they're on their best day, or best form, and they're fantastic, or whether they're absolutely bobbins and the rock bottom of where they're playing, you're not going to win anything with them. The end of the story. They can help you in rotation. They can help you in the squad. I think yesterday they did. They came on, did well in those last few minutes, and that's why you got them on the bench, exactly for that reason. But on the flip side of it, if they start games, opponents will look at them and go, they're slow, we're going to run them. And that's what they're not doing anymore. People are not running Man United because they know that these two centre-backs can deal with it. Someone said as well earlier on, they're a world-class centre-back pairing. I think they're on their way to being that. I think they are. I think this time next year, we might look at it and say they're one of the top 3 or 4 centre-back pairings in the world, but they've still got a little bit of work to go. And I think you're seeing how well the likes of Wan-Bissaka plays with these two inside. Luke Shaw is just phenomenal at the moment on the top end, going backwards and forwards. It fits. The back four fits together. It's glued together. And this is the glue guy.
Well, you add the triangle of Casemiro, Varane, and Martinez. What an upgrade that is from last season. You just can't even compare it.
Upgrade for 10 years, man. It's like that. Like we're playing some football that we only last saw under Fergie. Like some of this pass and move. We didn't see it under any other manager. We didn't. Even when we were winning stuff under Mourinho and stuff, it wasn't like this. We're seeing expansive football that takes months to achieve. Yeah, it doesn't happen in a day. And these players are doing it because of players like Martinez, because you've now got this kind of glue function in there, people doing the same things over and over and over and over again and doing it really, really well. So it's so promising, Haider. And this is what we've been dying to see for so long. We wanted to see it under Ole, and it couldn't work because Ole had different objectives in this 4-2-3-1. This 4-1-5 works. And that's why you keep doing it. And that's why you keep playing the same players. And that's why you're not rotating. Because if it works, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. Keep doing it. And yes, you might lose the odd game here. Like Palace might score in the 95th minute. And you're like, oh. But then you just go back and carry on doing it, don't you? And that's exactly what United are doing. So long may it continue. And I think it was an incredible game against Palace in the sense that they had all these things, adversity to go through, but they got the points. And literally, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Get the 3 points, and we can discuss the football afterwards.
Especially at this stage, Rob, it's so important to carry on winning, getting a winning culture. And look, ultimately, at the end of the day, Old Trafford's a fortress again. And that's the most important thing. Teams shouldn't come to Old Trafford and think they can win. And I think we saw under Oli, amazing away form, but home form was just shocking. And that's so important. So United, consistency in winning, consistency in performance. What do we talk about? We talk about sustainability. So something that we were saying under Oli, and this is my final word before we wrap up, is that while United are winning games, they were coming back from behind and they had some great comebacks. You can't fault the desire there. But it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable way to win titles. It's not a sustainable way to win trophies. Whereas when you're looking at United in a minute, the performances are good. Always baseline, very, very good. United look tactically well-versed. They understand their roles. The desire off the ball work, is fantastic. Players are playing out of their skin in terms of confidence. And then you have the tactical foundations. I mean, they're so solid. And what you're seeing from Ten Hag is the quality of the coaching is, I'm going to say it now, Rob, and when he gets all these players, like, you're almost looking at, is he close to like Klopp, Pep? Can he get to that level? I think he's got the potential. I don't think he's there yet, but he's showing that even without maybe the full additions that he wants in this squad, that he's able to get United playing at a very, very high, consistent level. So that's the positive, is that when you add the right pieces, and that's what it's about, adding the right pieces, not doing what Chelsea are doing and going and buying 3 starting 11s, adding the right pieces, and he carries on building and growing with the squad. I think he's got the technical fundamentals to go and challenge Klopp and Pep. I really do think that. And I think that United are really, really lucky that they've almost stumbled across. I wouldn't give the board any credit here. They've almost stumbled across Ten Hag. And, should new owners come in and the foundations of the club are built, he could have a really, really successful and a great period here at Manchester United. So I know, look, don't get too high, don't get too low, but I think the foundations in place for United to springboard and go and challenge next year. So, look, I think you don't know what's going to happen. Arsenal playing City, aren't they, twice now in the next 3 or 4 weeks? Arsenal could lose both games. It could be draws. United could carry on winning. We've got a nice run coming up. We've played the top 2 sides home and away now. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't think we've got enough. But what I'm liking from this side is that they're putting in really good performances week in, week out and winning football matches. And that's all you can ask for.
That's all you can ask for. And I think, thanks to everyone as well who has commented on the show today. Loads of people watching us live and obviously commenting along with the stream that we have running at the same time. But I would say that everyone here watching the show all kind of feels the same thing. You might have different opinions, but we're all feeling that Man United are a valid football team again. And that's all we've ever wanted. We've just wanted United to be able to do the simple stuff well, and what will be. Then the expansive stuff comes afterwards, doesn't it? So, yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said there, Haider. And I just think with Ten Hag, it's not about whether he's the next Guardiola. It's not about whether he's the next Klopp. He only has to be Ten Hag. That's it. Do the Ten Hag things and let everyone else chase you. Graham Potter's at Chelsea. Graham Potter's a really good coach, but he's stepped into a big dysfunctional mess, and he might be the guy that pays for it before he can even fix any of it. Ten Hag stepped into a big dysfunctional mess at Man United, but I think United had sunk so low that it got to a point where someone could come in and have additional powers, which is what he said. He said, he's coming to Man United. I want to run the shop. I want my name above it. I want the responsibility, but you do as I say, and I'll work with you, and we can make it a collective. I can be the figurehead of it. I'm really pleased with him. I think this is why we talked up his arrival at the start when we used to do all our shows about the next manager, and kind of why we went from the Conte model to kind of more the Ten Hag one, and like there's the Pochettino style, and we kind of went to Ten Hag because Ten Hag is a ground up guy. He's going to build it from the bottom brick and go up. And yeah, you'll give him big signings. He did spend like 300 million or whatever it was, like 250 million. So he did get like new players, but it's what you do with those players, isn't it? And what those players are. All the players he's brought in, Haider, are winners. So you've got to stick with that now. That's the culture now. And that's the difference. We have a culture with a football club. We don't just kind of wish that we're like City or wish we're like Liverpool. It doesn't matter anymore. Let them get on with it. They can get on with their own projects. This is our one. Let's make sure it continues. I hope that Ten Hag continues to get the backing, whether it's new owners or not new owners, whatever way it goes. Fingers crossed, obviously, that the Glazers are gone ASAP. But more than that, I think we've got a guy who understands the philosophy of Manchester United. I think they match. I think he knows that fans want this kind of hardworking, expansive style of football. And it also correlates with winning football. That's what the best teams do. So long may it continue. Very, very happy with this result. Happy with the performance. And let's hope that the Casemiro 3 games doesn't derail you, because there is that tiny potential that you lose a talisman out there. Your number 6, world-class number 6, not defensive midfielder, world-class number 6, helps you do all the other things that you do so well on a football pitch. And that crack in the armour isn't really where the spear ends up in one of these 3 games, because you could lose one of these games or even more. But of course, what do you want to do, Haider? You want to win all 3 before you go into this cup final. And of course, a very, very interesting game against Barcelona, home and away.
Just a quick one, Rob. Last point before we do wrap up. Do you think Ten Hag's getting enough credit from the media for the way he's turned it around? No, but do you think so? Yes. You work in the media.
I think he is. Like, when you talk to people about it, people normally say the same thing in the media to me. And they say, he's fixed it, isn't he? You can see he's fixed it. Like, we're not going to go mad about it, but he fixed it. And do you know what, Haider? I don't want people to get excited about it. Until you win trophies, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Like, you could be the best coach in the world, like you could be a Graham Potter and have all this acumen and 17 systems and all of this. And if you don't win games, you get sacked. That's football. You know, you're only as good as your CV at the end of the day. But I look at Ten Hag. I think he is getting the correct credit from the correct people. That's the fans. The fans are giving him that credit. And I think those in the media who think in a tactical sense and in a more practical sense have given him loads of credit. You know, you compare Chelsea 600 million to United's 250 or whatever they spent. Yeah, it looks like United have got the better value at the moment compared to Chelsea. But that's a kind of blame game load of rubbish, isn't it? I think that the right people are saying it. The pundits who are there to get you upset and get everyone upset. Yeah, of course they're not going to talk about Ten Hag being great or good or whatever. And there's a lot of people that hate our football club. Good. Hate us. We don't care. When you hate us the most, it's because we're winning. That's what you hate. So let's carry on. Keep winning. 13 home wins, you know, this season at Old Trafford for Ten Hag. Let's go unbeaten the whole season at home. Let's make that the aim. And this is where we have to be. The standard now has to be at the very, very top. You're going to get injuries. You're going to get suspensions. Can the whole squad maintain it? Who knows? But it looks bright. And that's the most important thing today.
Absolutely. And guys, as always, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We have so many of you watching our show, but you're not subscribed. So please, guys, it'd really help us, to get this out to a wider audience. Give us a follow on at ManUnitedMC and Rob a follow on at _Rob_B. People asking, I'm not on Twitter. I'm taking some time off Twitter at the minute. But if you do want to catch me, feel free to just ping the Masterclass page. If you want to, if you need to ask anything, and look, I'll try and reply there. So, guys, thank you very much. Fantastic win for Man United, and we'll see you all next time.